The Gertrude S. Caraway Awards of Merit are named in honor of the late Dr. Gertrude S. Caraway, a noted New Bern historian and preservationist. First presented in 1974, the awards give deserved recognition to individuals or organizations that have demonstrated a genuine commitment to historic preservation through extraordinary leadership, research, philanthropy, promotion, or significant participation in preservation.
So my name is Andy Edmonds. I am the GIS Technical Support Analyst, which is a mouthful. I'm also just the GIS guy at the North Carolina State Historic Preservation Office. One of the best known things that I do, and certainly the one that is the most public facing, is HPO Web, and that is my office's GIS-based online map. And today it has about 135,000 North Carolina buildings, historic districts, and objects that are displayed on that map. It's a web map that is used by consultants, by our DOT partners, and also by the public. But this is a culmination of decades of work, field work performed by the SHPO staff, by our partners at the Department of Transportation, and most of all by all of our consultants, many of whom have surveyed North Carolina buildings for decades. So my role in this is I really feel like a steward to all of this. I'm helping to take this information and display it in an online environment that is useful to folks and that is really the culmination of a lot of work by a lot of people. That brings me a lot of satisfaction as well, that this vision that they had a dozen or more years ago is something that I'm helping to bring into the future, and making some changes along the way that really assist people. I'm grateful to PNC for the award. I also feel like I am a steward and that I'm accepting this award on behalf of all the folks who've come before me, who've helped bring my work to fruition, and that I am helping bring their work to the public in a way that's accessible and interesting.
My name is Brett Sturm. I am a restoration specialist with the State Historic Preservation Office. I've been around now for over 7 years in this position, almost exactly 7. We restoration specialists divide the 100 counties into service districts. And so I've got 18 counties in the central Piedmont that I serve. And so over 7 years, people become aware of who I am, and I've encountered constituents on multiple site visits, particularly architects and engineers and people in the building trades, but also owners, even homeowners I've talked to multiple times over the course of time. And what always makes me happy is, and proud I suppose, is when those folks demonstrate themselves growing capacity for knowledge about what they're doing and enthusiasm about what they're doing. I can see kind of the educational efforts I've put in start to really take and develop. When I feel like I've empowered people to start solving their own problems, or at least to start thinking through their building conservation problems in a way that will get them to the right people or to the right answers. Teaching people how to observe, and you actually see that take place. And that's the neat thing about our job. We get to keep up with counties over time and build those relationships. And that's, I think, what makes me most proud of my work.
I think when we take on a project, as Dylan was saying, obviously we get excited about the opportunity to get rolling on our next vision and let that vision unveil. And so for me, I immediately start daydreaming. I'm imagining, often what the houses that we're working on have had vinyl siding, and during that process had a lot of their historic detail lopped off. And so we, dig into our repertoire of experiences working with houses that are similar and houses that are maybe nearby, and start daydreaming about what that house could be again. And we do our best to respect the structure, to not make it something it wasn't supposed to be. We really want, if it's a little working class mill house, we want to restore that mill house to what it would have been more or less when it was initially built, down to the exterior detail, the interior woodwork. Every house has an opportunity to be beautiful in its own right, and I think when we have the opportunity to just bring something back to what it was supposed to be, I think that really gets us excited.
What we sort of think about when we renovate a house or restore a house is that we're trying to buy this house another 100 years. That we're typically doing Victorians and craftsmen, so it's been 100 plus years that since this house was built. Typically in that time they've been messed up by somebody or many people with, as Taylor said, vinyl siding and things like that, and a lot of character has been removed, so we look to put that character back the best that we can. But then we also look to modernize the home with bathrooms that people enjoy in the 21st century, kitchens that people enjoy in the 21st century. We're not knocking out a whole bunch of walls, but we're making this a home that respects the history but also is updated and attractive for the 21st century buyer, so that I think if we only win over current preservationists, we're not doing our job. So we're trying to make this a home that's attractive to people that never even really thought about preservation, people that maybe have been scared of old houses, right? We're always redoing all of the systems, electrical, plumbing, HVAC, roof, right? So that this basically is a historic house, but with all of the components being new, so that someone can feel comfortable coming into this house. And so we're proud that this is a house that we're hoping to give another 100 years, and then some other Taylor and Dillons will come along in 100 years and do the same thing, and we'll keep this house going on into the future and give it new life, give it a future.
Pierre Quaron. I am the principal at Stability Engineering. Breathing new life into these old buildings. Generally speaking, they're much more visually striking than almost any other type of thing you can do, simply because it's so unusual. 2-foot thick brick walls generally on some of these things. You just don't see that. They don't do that. They don't have that expertise anymore. So it's a pleasure to be able to, number one, bring back these whole historic buildings and have them as, number one, a place that's functional, and also it kind of brings you back in time a little bit. That's what I really like about it. So thank you for the recognition, and it's really great to be part of this project, and we love getting recognized for our work that we've done. Sometimes these projects they go sideways. Sometimes it's got a lot of surprises in them, but at the same time, when things are able to, when everything finally finishes up and there's some recognition for that, I think it's something that we love to share with the whole office, and we have plaques, and we have it's something that we're very proud of.
So I'm David Stogner with Stogner Architecture, and our firm's located in Rockingham, North Carolina. I was the project architect for the Tabor City incubation project. It was a renovation to 3 historic storefronts in downtown Tabor City. So in Tabor City, it's a rather small downtown, but like most small downtowns in North Carolina, they had a lot of vacant storefronts. And with this particular building, it was 3 storefronts, 1 business occupied all 3. It was a Heilig Myers furniture store, and that building sat vacant since about 2001, so a little over 20 years. Nice historic downtown building in Tabor City was being unused. The city wanted to revitalize downtown, had the space to do it, and they thought by offering lower rents to small businesses that this would be a way to draw people into the downtown area and help a small business get started. And the idea was to allow them to occupy that space for 3, 5, maybe up to 10 years. And once they were really established, then they would move on and other businesses would come in and repeat that cycle. I guess I come from a small town, and my grandfather ran a furniture store for as long as I could remember until his death, and so that's what I saw in Tabor City. A chance to bring it back to life, and for the people that have been in Tabor City, no longer having vacant storefronts as an eyesore, but as an opportunity. I think that's what I found special in this project.
Hi, my name is Michelle Michael. I'm the Senior Planner for Historic Preservation for the town of Wake Forest, and I'm the Project Manager for the Ailey Young House Rehabilitation. So the Ailey Young House is the oldest known African American historic resource in the town of Wake Forest. It was identified in 2008 by Ruth Little during a routine architectural survey of the town as having significance as a Reconstruction era workers' housing, and also the childhood home of Alan Young, who was an African American educator and significant in the town of Wake Forest history. So the town of Wake Forest actually owns it, and the Historic Preservation Commission took it as a project that it was important for us to celebrate this part of African American history and the town's history, and therefore the town has been rehabilitating it for the last 10 years. When I first got here, the house was mostly burned and had a tarp over it, and we weren't sure how we were going to make it happen. And it's, as I've mentioned, rare example of this type of architecture. We're lucky that it's publicly owned and that we still have it. It did survive a fire and neglect and vacancy and vandalism, and there's a reason it's still here. So for me, it's more about letting the house tell its story and trying to learn more about the community through the house, but also by preserving it, celebrating the history of the African American community in Wake Forest. We're so proud of the Ailey Young House and the work that's been done. It really is. It's a great project. We all have contributed. Almost every department, if not every department within the town, has contributed to this project in one way or another. And we're just really happy that it's being recognized. We're proud of it, and we're glad that Preservation North Carolina is recognizing us with this honor.
The Alexa Aycock Grassroots Leadership Award is the highest honor presented to community leaders who demonstrate an outstanding commitment to preservation through advocacy and community engagement. Presented for the first time this year, the award is made possible by the Marion Stedman Covington Foundation of Greensboro in honor of Alexa Aycock, who served as the foundation's grants coordinator and executive director for more than 30 years. The award recipient receives a $500 stipend and may direct an additional $500 award to a historic preservation organization or project of their choice.
My name is Patrick Daly. I retired last year as executive director of the Hickory Landmark Society in Hickory, North Carolina. Grassroots efforts are important in any community because they serve to educate the people who live in that community, it's really nice to when I think of grassroots, I think of individuals and families and people I speak with, and handshaking with people, eyeball to eyeball, so to speak, and I think that's the grassroots is meeting people, telling them about who you and your organization are, but also learning about them as well. And I think people appreciate that when you make an effort to learn about them. As it applies to historic preservation, I mean, people have their lives. Not everybody's interested in historic preservation, but it's possible to inspire people in historic preservation through grassroots efforts. Some people had the impression that historic preservation was about regulation. Nobody's going to tell me what color to paint my house. Nobody's going to tell me what to do with my house. I think that's a fallacy, because you have choices to make, but if you make the right choice and preserve a building in the right way, then that's the reward for you as an individual. I think that's part of the grassroots efforts. I think I never shied away from advocacy for historic preservation, because I knew that as controversial as it was still beneficial for everybody on an individual basis. There was that, and I think I think explaining people some of the benefits of preservation for them financially was important too. Starting with the state historic preservation tax credit program, which in North Carolina applies to individuals as well as corporate development. So I like that about North Carolina. I think that's very forward thinking, and it was very useful to me as I reached out to people. I think I'm most proud of the overall, I guess the word would be legacy that I've left since I retired, because I've walked along. The city of Hickory has a new city walk, and our entire community has benefited by that, and I thank the city of Hickory for taking the plunge and doing a city walk, a river walk, an airport walk. All over the city it's now pedestrian, and you can use bicycles, and so I do that. I walk along the city walk, and thanks to the city, and then I walk past these historic buildings, and I think, well, I was involved in that one. Then I'd walk further down, so I was involved in that one. And then I was involved in that one and that one. I'm very, very proud of that in a larger sense. If there was a specific project, it would have to be the Piedmont Wagon Building, because of the impact that it had in inspiring corporate investment in Hickory, leading to additional jobs in the city, and benefits for the city of Hickory in terms of tax income and that sort of thing. And I wanted to thank Richard Schwartzel for taking the chance and doing that. He had other options, but I'm very grateful, and that probably is a specific project that I won't ever forget. This award means a lot to me. I'm very honored. In a way, it's recognition from my peers of historic preservation that I have done on a grassroots level, and so it means a lot. And also Alexa Aycock, whom I've known, is wonderful, and to be able to receive an award with her name on it, I congratulate her for having an award named after her, and I'm very proud to be the first one in a long line of award winners for that very reason. And so, I'm just honored and thankful for winning this award.
The Dwayne H. Anderson Senior Award for Housing is the highest honor presented for the development of housing in historic buildings. This award recognizes that creative, affordable, or urban housing solutions are of special interest for historic preservation. First presented in 2023, the award is made possible by the family of the late Dwayne H. Anderson Sr. of Winston-Salem, whose career and leadership resulted in thousands of units of new housing in historic schools, mills, and hospitals across the South.
What I'm most proud about is the organization that I've built and the caring environment that we have at Rehab Builders. We started, I guess it's 27 years ago, 1997. At that time, people were selling businesses, and most people, all they cared about was the buck. And we had the firm I had been with before it was sold. We had a great environment, and after it was sold, the dollar became the only driver, and I became miserable, and that was the main reason I started Rehab Builders, was to rehab buildings, but obviously with a name, but it was really mainly about creating an environment, and I'm really proud of the way we've got employees that have been with us 20 plus years, 15 years, that I think they've done a really good job, even though I'm semi-retired now, of keeping that environment strong, and that's really what I'm most proud of. If we tear down all these great buildings, that's history gone, and they're irreplaceable. Probably the number one reason, and then to be able to remember our forefathers and the pride that they took. And I'm not saying that people don't take pride, because they still do, but once you knock down a historic building, it's gone. I mean, you might find some pictures of it somewhere, but you can't touch it, feel it, smell it, and the character that's in the buildings is important. It's important to me. Every project we did is different. That's why it's hard to specifically pick one out, because there are things that I remember that I just fell in love with that were huge problems when you solved them, and you found the building coming back to life and realized that people could live in it and enjoy it. And the advantages of having walls, instead of like that thick, having walls that thick, you can't see me, I don't think. It's nice. It's a nice feeling knowing that people are really in a substantial building that they, for the most part, had no idea was really as strong as the building was. I guess it's nice for me to just like to remember Dwayne Anderson. He was quite a pioneer that. When we worked together as a team, I did all the heavy lifting. I did all the figuring, everything behind him. I was behind the scenes figuring everything out. But he was the person who was the face of it, that went and worked with Congress, got the money, the funding, and that helped to make everything. I could have never done anything that I've accomplished without Dwayne. And I just like to remember Dwayne Anderson.
The Manette C. Duffy Landscape Preservation Award is the highest honor given for the preservation, restoration, or maintenance of landscapes, gardens, streetscapes, or grounds related to historic structures. First presented in 1987, the award is made possible by the family of the late Manette Chapman Duffy of New Bern, whose leadership contributed to the reconstruction of Tryon Palace. The recipient receives a $500 stipend.
My name is Beverly Payne, and I am a tribal council member of the Occaneechi Band of the Saponi Nation, and I am the project manager for the village in Hillsboro, for the Occaneechi replica village in Hillsboro. The story is that it's a replica village of an original archaeological dig done by UNC Archaeology. The original dig site is estimated to have been occupied between 1680 and 1710. And the archaeologists started looking for that site in 1938. They found it in 1983. When they were looking for it, they found 3 others, plus the Okanichi site, which was number 4. It's just amazing. I mean, to go back in history and to know my ancestors, or to know where they are. They aren't lost somewhere on this earth. And to know that we existed and still do exist. When it comes to this project, I'm most proud of the end result, the beauty of natural life, and secondly, but also the first thing, because without them, this could not happen. I am proud of the volunteers, the village people who have stuck with me and followed my direction and loved it. I'd like to give a shout out to Orange County, to the town of Hillsborough, to the Alliance for Historic Hillsborough, the Orange County Historical Museum, and the Colonial Inn, and to the tribe, of course, to the Okanichi Band of the Sapana Nation.
The L. Vincent Lowe Jr. Business Award is the highest honor presented to a business that assists or promotes historic preservation in North Carolina. Established in 1983, the name was changed in memory of Vincent Lowe of Wilson, a champion of historic causes in North Carolina, who served as chair of Preservation NC's 50th anniversary campaign. The Lowe Business Award recognizes companies that have shown vision, leadership, and creativity in promoting the protection of the state's architectural resources.
My name is Dawson Tyler, and I am the founder of Down East Preservation. What guides Down East Preservation is really, trying to take a light-handed approach when we deal with historic structures, to kind of step back and understand again, what the building is giving us, and making sure that when we approach and restore or preserve that building, that we don't destroy any of the history or the story that's left there. Because one of the most important things to me, and why I love this job so much, is I love history. And really the only way that we in the world that we live in interact with history on a day-to-day basis is buildings. We do it all the time, and it really surrounds us wherever we go.
Okay, my name is Briley Rasco, and I am the lead designer and manager of our design center, which is called Down East Design. So with my role being on the design side, I will kind of sit down with Dawson or Burton or Gary, one of our team leads, when a project comes along, and get the scope of the restoration piece and how we're going to preserve this piece of history, and then I get to step in and add all the beautiful things and fun design finishes. And so kind of my role is to keep the history of a structure, but to make it more efficient for modern living and beautiful.
One of the things that I'm most proud of is the people that I'm surrounded with. We have this amazing group that's more like a family. And the thing that's special about each of them is each person has this amazing vision that they add to kind of the overall fabric of what we do. And just the ability to have come to this time in my life and to have all of these special people around me is something that is kind of the first thing that I come to. The second part, gets back to what we were talking about earlier. one of my main focuses in life, one of my main interests in life is history. I went to Washington and Lee University. I was a history major there. And my friends always joke with me that, I'm the only guy that was in the history department there that's actually using his major. And it's being able to follow my life's dream, my life's focus, and what really excites me as a career path.
It's kind of surreal, honestly. We are in a very small town. We do a lot in our small town, and can feel we feel the impact that we have on our community, but to be recognized regionally and statewide, it's a very huge honor. And, we're excited to be a part of this event, and we're excited for people to see what we do and hear our story, because at the end of the day, restoring history, and history itself is just one big story, right?
It's amazing. I mean, I'm just I'm speechless. It's I never expected it. I'm part of a team that I feel is deserving of the award, and I'm just happy to be part of that team.
Vincent Lowe, was such a large character in kind of eastern North Carolina and the world in which we live. Actually, my parents, Jim and Dickie Tyler, knew Mr. Lowe way back when they were at Chapel Hill, and just always speak about, and people always speak about what a great man he was, and obviously the impact that he had on just people really understanding what preservation is, bringing that conceptually home to a large segment of the population, and for this little company to ever win anything with Mr. Lowe's name on it, it's just an incredible honor.
The Stedman Incentive Grant is awarded to recognize and assist nonprofit organizations in their efforts to preserve the state's architectural heritage. Originating in 1976, the award is funded each year by the Marion Stedman Covington Foundation of Greensboro in memory of Marion's father. The $15,000 grant encourages and facilitates the rescue of endangered, historic, and architecturally significant properties in North Carolina.
I'm Bill Stoltz. I'm the new Executive Director with the Historic Wilmington Foundation. It's fantastic on behalf of the Historic Wilmington Foundation to be recognized for our work in historic preservation through this grant and to actually do work in our community to better it with historic preservation. The Giblin Masonic Lodge is the second oldest Prince Hall Masonic Lodge in North Carolina, built around 1873, and it represents both the aspirations of Wilmington's black community during Reconstruction and resiliency during Jim Crow. Because of its history, through its political, religious, educational, and fraternal functions, Giblin facilitated the expression of black agency in North Carolina's largest city in the late 19th and early 20th centuries. Within a year of its completion, the building exemplified the multi-purpose, community-centered use that defines its history. At a time marked by widespread black male suffrage, Giblin Lodge served as a voting precinct, and then throughout the years, Giblin has provided a space for lectures, community events, religious revivals, expositions, and more. So I think a big thing is we're very appreciative here at the Historic Wilmington Foundation for the Stedman Incentive Grant, because Historic Wilmington Foundation believes that the Giblin Lodge's rehabilitation is an important step in the local reconciliation process related to the 1898 coup d'etat, where Wilmington has monuments and markers to acknowledge the devastation of the 1898 massacre. Few structures remain to serve as touchstones within our built environment, representing the strengths and success of the black community during Reconstruction. I'd like to give a shout out to the Masons of the Giblin Lodge who took the lead in this project, but also Patriot Roofing and Exteriors, which provided $2,500 in-kind donation, which will help go towards the grant work. I just want to thank the Preservation North Carolina Awards Committee for this recognition, and we want people to come to Wilmington to see us.
The Robert E. Stipe Professional Award is the highest honor presented to working professionals who demonstrate an outstanding commitment to preservation as part of their job responsibilities. The award was established in 1983 to memorialize the many contributions of Robert E. Stipe of Chapel Hill, an educator in the field of historic preservation and a mentor to a generation of preservation professionals. The award recognizes career preservationists who show exceptional leadership or dedication to the field. The recipient receives a $500 stipend.
My name is Patrick Shell, and I'm the boss. I don't really have a title. I'm a lone wolf contractor, and I basically put together teams to fix up historic structures. Let's say if I were to create a mission statement for myself, the two things that I really try and make sure are attended to is the integrity of the structure and the client. So I try and give the clients what they want, and at the same time make sure that we are respecting the structure and taking care of the significant architectural details that have to be looked after. I sort of see my role as, I fill in the blanks. I fill in the spaces, where nobody else can do it. And then, that involves a lot of different things. Sometimes it's doing the more complicated carpentry jobs. Sometimes it's dealing with inspectors, keeping everybody together, trying to make all the subcontractors' lives as easy as possible, because these are crazy projects a lot of the times. The great thing about doing stuff, working with your hands and building stuff, is there's this huge sense of immediate gratification. And by immediate, it's not every day. I mean, some days are really nasty. There's restoration stuff. When you first start, some of these projects are they're horrible. There's pigeon poop and dust and it can be really nasty. But when you get done, and you get to a certain point in jobs where you've finished up all this stuff that's really important, but it doesn't show. And you start doing the finishing work, or kind of like icing the cake. And then it just gets to be really fun. Your clients are happy. They're seeing, they're realizing, wow, this is going to happen. It's really going to happen. And one of my most fun things is going back several years later and seeing what people have done, how they furnish things out, and how my work's holding up. And that's extremely gratifying to go back. I don't know. I guess I'm proud that I didn't really set out to do this. Like I say, I was pretty confused early on, and now I look back and I just think I've been incredibly fortunate to have kind of like stumbled into this way of making a living and helping to save old architecture that really kind of belongs to some extent to all of us. It's our shared history, and I'm thankful that I've been able to help save some of it. It's been a privilege for me.
The Ruth Coltrane Cannon Award is North Carolina's most prestigious preservation award. It's presented to an individual or organization that has made contributions of statewide significance to historic preservation in North Carolina. Originating in 1948, the award is named for Ruth Coltrane Cannon of Concord in memory of her outstanding contributions to preservation. From 1945 to 1956, Miss Cannon served as president of the North Carolina Society for the Preservation of Antiquities, the predecessor organization of Preservation North Carolina.
When I started work with Preservation North Carolina, I was the half-time addition to a full-time person. So it was 1.5 people working across the state. And so it was pretty small. The job changed over a period of time. I was hired as assistant director, started work on August 1, and during Labor Day weekend, Jim Gray, who hired me, called me and told me he was going to retire and he was going to recommend that I be named the executive director. And so I was named executive director before the end of 1978 and was there for 45 years. The job changed a lot during the years, which was one of the pleasures of the job. I started out with the Historic Preservation Fund of North Carolina, which was property work only. We didn't do the awards, we didn't do the conference, we didn't do the membership, etc. We were just doing the property work. And we were able to do that independently for 7 or 8 years, and then we ended up merging the two organizations, the parent organization being the Historic Preservation Society of North Carolina. So we were able to go along the path and do property work and at the same time try to do interesting educational and outreach work. We always tried to have some special something going on from an educational standpoint, whether it was the big North Carolina architecture book and some of the spin-offs from that, the TV shows. We did a series of things about reusing school buildings that was enormously helpful to people locally that were facing the need to reuse a vacant school. But it was a great job from the standpoint of being able to do a lot of interesting things while doing property work. There are lots of reasons to be interested in historic preservation, and for example, the environmental side, the reuse of these materials, keeping materials out of the landfills. There's the design side of it, but the older I get, the more I get excited about the history of the people who live in these places or who worked in these places, and the social history that goes along with that. It's with working with these places, it's not just, that's a great piece of architecture. That's important. I love great pieces of architecture. I love simple houses. I take pretty wide spectrum there. I've always said I'm agnostic as to style. Really don't care whether it's mid-century modern or federal. But the stories that they help tell is really important. I'm really honored to get the Cannon Award. I got to know Ms. Cannon's daughter quite well through the years, and she was a very special person. I jokingly say I haven't been eligible to get this award for 45 years and got it on my first year. That's pretty daggone good. So I'm really honored to get it. I've known at least 45 of the recipients of this award through the years, and I feel like I'm going into incredibly good company in that regard.